Midnight Museum Conservation, Lab Promise on the checkout slip. The museum keeps two versions of history, the public one that smiles in clean frames and the private one that lives under cotton gloves and taped labels that refuse to flatter anyone. After midnight, the conservation lab clicks and hums like a careful spaceship. Solvents whisper their opinions. Tiny brushes dry themselves into saints. I signed the overnight log with a pen that made me briefly honest and slid my phone face down into my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home. The guard at collections looked up over his crossword, sized me to the weight of my guilt, and buzzed me through. Back home, Theo had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that means please stay now. Our couch is a courtroom when it wants to be. If we sit at opposite ends long enough, it swears us in and calls our witnesses by their worst names. I left before we rehearsed statements we'd eat cold for breakfast. On the staff stairwell, my screen lit with a message from A. Adrian in my contacts, A in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Lab, just talk. He didn't add a dare. He knows I carry my own. By day, I fix other people's paragraphs for the museum's publications team, persuading donors that varnish is a form of hope. By night, I try not to turn my own sentences into weapons. Theo and I keep a code that works when we remember it. T means come here, you awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but please stay within reach. Adrian re-entered orbit 2 months ago when a courier arrived with a painting that breathed like bad news. He supervises conservation, the person you call when a century won't sit still. He wears a white coat only when someone takes a photo. Otherwise, it's sleeves pushed, collar unpunished, a pencil behind one ear, and a laugh that sounds like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. The lab door accepted my badge, and the room welcomed me with a solvent-shy citrus. Light boxes stood like promises. A microscope waited in priestly silence. On a stainless table, a small painting lay face down on foam like a patient who decided not to discuss symptoms until the fee was clear. Adrian stood at the sink rinsing a pipette, hands sure and slow. He turned with the kind of smile you don't know whether to trust because it remembers every injury it didn't cause. "You came," he said, "because grown men never tire of pretending a rival is a plot twist." "I came to return something," I said. "My keys, your restraint." "Your name," I said. "It's been on my mouth too long for its own health." He dried his hands, pulled a blank checkout slip from the clipboard, the kind registrars used to prove an object had permission to be where it was, and set it on the table with a pencil that had paid its dues. "3 words," he said. "Why are you here?" "3 words is cruel," I said. "That's why they work." He angled the lamp so the paper made itself honest. "No speeches near consolidants, they harden in self-defense." I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller like a fuse I might or might not light, touch before arguing. He read the graphite as if it had temperature. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered a breath from my lapel, the distance a match keeps during training, and fell back to the table like the microscope had filed a complaint. "Does he know?" Adrian asked. He didn't need to weaponize the pronoun. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said. He lifted the painting, oak panel, fine crackleure like a map of decisions we still call accidents, and placed it under the light. "Varnish turns time into a rumor," he said. "You can scrape at it, reveal the past, then have to live with what you uncovered." "Is this the part where you say the metaphor out loud?" I asked. "That's your department," he said, almost smiling. Heat arrived before hands do when men are trying to be better than their appetites. He stepped into my weather and said, "Tell me no. with the respect of a craftsman asking a surface for consent. I didn't. I met him in the inch that rewrites evenings. His mouth tasted like mint and the idea of citrus. When his hand found the back of my neck, his grip remembered humane limits. My body answered like a courtroom that wants the witness anyway. He made the sound men make when a small country surrenders and calls it diplomacy. I made the sound I've learned not to hate when it belongs to him. We didn't rush. Labs punish speed with precision. His mouth found the hinge of my jaw. Mine found the line behind his ear where regret loses vocabulary. His palm slid under my shirt and rested flat a second. Do you swear? Then moved with attention rather than appetite. He guided my hand down with the steadiness of someone who respects tools. I closed my fingers and he exhaled into my mouth a truth nobody paid to hear. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because cotton gloves prefer prose. The fume hood pretended not to mind. We already cheated, he said when breath remembered its job. We cheated the first night we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home. I know, I said, and a deionized water line clicked with clerical approval. He folded the checkout slip and slid it into my left pocket with ceremonial slowness. His thumb traced my wrist once and chose not to stay. He stepped back the moral inch that passes inspection. I booked a room at the little hotel across the square, he said, not triumphant. Weather report, not prophecy. Refundable. We could stand at the window and not touch for 60 seconds to prove we remember ceremony. We could keep the do not disturb honest. I'm tired of being clever, I said. Clever's a fill varnish, he said. Looks good does nothing structural. Accurate is adhesive. He opened a drawer and produced a novelty magnet shaped like a tiny palette knife, ridiculous and perfect, and pressed it into my palm. For your fridge, he said. Cold helps letters behave. He lifted the microscope's cover and invited me to look at a cross-section of pigment, a candy bar slice of centuries, each layer its own confession. I stared at the blue Prussian, cheap, honest in its way, and the thin amber of age above it. You can't put things back, I said. You can put them forward better, he answered, and turned down the lamp before the bulb judged us. When I left, the guard had advanced his crossword by a mercy. The crosswalk gave me time, I took it. The apartment offered its square of kitchen light and the fridge's patient hum. Theo sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle crossed over the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who still want a morning. He didn't ask where I'd been. He tilted his head toward the place beside him. I sat. Do you want to be asked? He said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. Please, I said, because prompts are the scaffolding of my better self. Are you lonely? Some nights, I said. Not here, not when you ask first, not when the kettle outruns the reasons. I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to make sure I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once and decided to believe me. I feel useful, he said. I want to be wanted before I'm useful. Tonight's procedure, I said. Touch first, argue second, report later. The kettle clicked like a stamp in a country that still believes in mail. He poured water over mint. We named it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I pinned the folded checkout slip beneath the palette knife magnet so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Theo read the graphite and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He took the dry erase marker from the cup by the fridge and wrote beneath the magnet, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He nodded like a man, assembling a morning from honest screws. We made a rule that isn't noble. When prosecution tries to wear a bathrobe, one of us says museum and the other puts the kettle on while the first puts his hands where history can find them. 5 words when 5 are enough. Stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. Try to want what we promised, and when we don't, write 3 words on small paper and tell the room where we'll fail differently tomorrow. Days do what days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The slip in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late tram, I drafted messages to no one that began I didn't ask because I thought that counted as kindness and ended may your breakfast go right. I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from drying racks. Rest, then turn. A week later, afternoon tried to be a test. A trustee wanted a plaque to apologize without nomming any villains. The elevators discovered a philosophical objection to motion. I walked past the staff entrance and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water on the loading dock with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." The shipper gave me the nod bridges use when they've held and will hold again. On my way home, I slipped a blank object label into my pocket and wrote "Turn" toward your name across the clean side. I didn't light anything. Adrian and I adjusted our grammar. Fewer messages. No hotel rooms with curtains pretending to understand restraint. If we failed quieter. If we stopped without applause. Still, we orbited. He sent a photo of a paint test where my initials hid in the control swatch. I replied with steam curling over 2 mugs and Theo's unshowy script under the magnet, torque. We flirted by solvents. We confessed by humidity. On a rain-sincere evening, a leak announced itself above storage. Adrian texted, "Microclimate spike. Need hands. Bring nothing you can't live without." I was 4 blocks away and too willing. We triaged paintings with foam blocks and patience, speaking in the vocabulary of small rescues. When the hygrometer stopped sulking, he laughed in the soft, stubborn way of a man who prefers saving to scoring. He kissed me between shelving units that smelled like old wood and budgets. My spine met cool metal. His hand found my hip. Somewhere a crate stamped with a dynasty's year pretended it had seen worse. We didn't rush. We mapped mercy with our mouths and rehearsal with our hands. His palms slid under my shirt and paused. "Do you swear?" Then moved only as far as the better version of me allowed. I bracketed him with a grip he could leave without proving anything. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because the room had done us a kindness and deserved the courtesy. "We're bad at quitting," he said against my throat. "We're good at failing differently," I said into his collar. He rested his forehead against mine, breath varnish sweet and human. "Text me a weather report in the morning," he said. "Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." Theo met me at home with the posture of a question he had decided not to sharpen. He smelled like basil and laundry that believed in second chances. "Hungry?" he asked, and it wasn't a trap. We ate toast like it had been newly invented. After, he wrote under the magnet, "Ask before leaving." I wrote, "Hold me first." We signed because sometimes paperwork keeps 2 men from becoming hatchets. A Tuesday that felt unromantic enough to carry weight arrived, and I told him the inventory, Adrian's name, the rooms where I had behaved and the corridors where I had not, the fence I kept bragging about by leaning on it. He didn't perform sainthood or schedule exile. He said, "Stay while you learn the thing you say you want to learn, but don't make me a gallery you pass through on your way to the gift shop." Breakfast became a place with rules. No phones at the table. No rehearsed cruelty before coffee. No pretending tomorrow is a closet where tonight can hang unexamined. I turned the checkout slip over and added 3 new words: "Choose the hard." Theo watched me write and didn't ask for a receipt. We shrank the orbit, fewer late doors. No labs unless a leak made them necessary. Adrian sent a picture of the conservation diary, a tidy line of notes ending with "stayed." I hearted it and didn't go. He hearted the heart and let it dry. The museum mounted a small show with a big conscience. Our wall text tried not to pretend that provenance is a synonym for innocence. Donors smiled at difficult truths the way people smile at foreign weather from inside. I stood in the back with a borrowed tie and the complicated pride of someone who cares about labels more than is flattering. Adrian didn't look for me. The part of him that belongs to the work refused. That's how I knew he was taking this seriously. After he sent a single photo, a stable humidity graph, one tiny LED admitting still here, I sent back the magnet on our fridge and the folded slip beneath it. We left it there. Sometimes Theo asks if Adrian made me feel seen. I tell him yes, and that being seen isn't the same as being kept. He nods like a map allowing a road to be closed without deleting it. Some evenings he places my hand on his chest and says weather, and I answer with steam and minutes and the way my mouth can choose his shoulder before it chooses an argument. There is a piece in the new show, a small portrait of a stranger with a mouth that refuses to apologize. It carries a scar where a conservator once chose a solvent that was too brave. The label explains without flinching. People read it and still let the painting be beautiful. I stand in front of it sometimes and practice letting the scar teach me something that doesn't end with a speech. We fail and fail differently and fail in ways that don't require anyone to stand under a hot light pretending to know which caption will save them. The room does not demand a verdict. The morning remembers its job. I still carry the checkout slip in my left pocket. It warms to my thigh like a small, unlicensed gravity, heavier than paper has any right to be. Proud at breakfast. Touch before arguing. Choose the hard. None of it is noble. All of it is procedural, like relining a painting you want to last. You face what can't bear its own weight. You add what you can without pretending you're original, and you put it back on the wall with a kinder label than the one you came in with. Outside, security locks the galleries and the city tries on a quieter shade of itself. Inside, our kitchen hums a modest hymn. Theo leans against the counter and asks, "Are you staying?" without making it a trap. "I'm trying to want what I promised," I say. "Help me make more minutes where that's easy." He nods, finds a clean index card, writes "Read me closely." I write beneath it, "Handle with care." We pin it under the palette knife magnet, ridiculous and effective. And when we say tomorrow out loud, it means only what we let it mean.